G'day guys, Michael here from Mike's RC Review. I'd like to welcome you all to my channel and thank you all for joining me today. Very gloomy and very dark afternoon here in Melbourne, Victoria, or Victoria, Australia. I'm in country Victoria, so it's not one and the same. Been busy for the last couple of weeks, so I do apologize for being absent. And I have done a couple of videos, but unfortunately the phone that I've got, I use an iPhone 12 Pro, and for whatever reason did not back up the videos and it just didn't save. So I've got around about 50 minutes, roughly just under an hour worth of a series that I did, which is a 4-part series on a new crawler that I ordered and then unboxed and then explained each and every component and the reason why I actually purchased those components and the add-ons. And then, you know, parts 1 through to 4, which as I said is just under an hour, just all disappeared. I just couldn't find them on my phone when I came to wanting to edit them and then, you know, eventually potentially upload them onto YouTube for you guys to watch and enjoy. So unfortunately, I'm not able to get them out. If I do eventually find them, guys, I will, you know, I will get them out there. I will edit them, obviously, because after I've shown you what I'm about to show you now, it'll be pointless, pretty much, showing you those 4 parts. But this is a, it's going to be as quick as I can, around roughly just under 10 minutes of your time, if you don't mind. Just stick with me and I'll go through the reasons as to why. So there's two main reasons why I wanted to do this video today. As you guys know, I try not to just, you know, do videos just for the sake of it. It gets boring. I want to give you new content all the time to make it a little bit more exciting, because there's not much action on my channel. It's mainly just talking. So people that actually join me on my channel like to just listen and maybe learn a few things from somebody who's been learning throughout the year. As you guys know, if you've been following me, I'm pretty new to this as well, but you can only say that you know, so many times. So I'm gaining experience. I don't know everything. I never will, but the more I learn, the more I can pass on as well. First up, as you can see, is very obvious. My D90 Defender is no longer green and white. It is now what's called mercury silver and ink black. So the mercury silver is actually a Ford color here in Australia. It's called a mercury silver from the BA Ford Falcon, and it was available from 2002 all the way up to 2004 in the BA Series 1 Falcon and Fairmont Fairlane ranges. I used to work at Ford and I used to always love this color. I sold Fords from 2002 all the way up to 2017. So it spanned a long career at Ford. I've now left, but I've always liked this color out of all the colors that Ford have released. Yes, it's another shade of a silver, but it's more of an exciting shade of a silver for those that like boring colors. I like boring colors mainly because, as I always tell my customers when I sell them cars, if you want a color that's going to be, you know, good to resell after 3 to 4 years, even though no car is good to resell after 3 to 4 years unless you own obviously a you know, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, which even then they still depreciate. But there are no vehicles, maybe apart from Land Cruiser, actually, from the Toyota Land Cruiser. See, LC200 Land Cruisers and LC70 Land Cruisers here in Australia don't go down that much. In fact, I've seen a almost 10-year-old 300,000 kilometer, which is roughly 190, actually no, over 200,000 mile Toyota Land Cruiser 200 series that's still going for around about 80,000 Australian dollars. Mind you, it had a couple of modifications, not you know, not a lot of mods, but a couple of mods that were worth probably around about $10,000. But still, to be asking $80,000 for a 300,000 kilometer vehicle, I would say Land Cruisers are the ones to buy if you're gonna get something that's gonna last you 10 years and more, but then still want resale value. But to the color, always go for something that is gonna appeal to everybody, I guess. People that, you know, like their bright yellows and bright blues more often than not are still gonna like their silvers. and you know, the very bright colors out there, specifically for sports cars and stuff, they get old after a few years, and that's the reason why I try to stay towards the silver, and that's the reason why I like this silver. So I painted it Mercury silver. Those that know me on Facebook as well would know that the green body is not this. The green body I actually stuffed up. I did not prep it right, and when I started painting it, I painted it too thick. I actually painted it all black. I wanted an all black look, and I liked it for a few. Like it was still usable for the 2 weeks that I kept it until this new body came in from Asia Tees. But I you know, decided not to go for all black this time around and paint it something else. So it ended up being okay. So it's got the black. The ink black, by the way, FYI, is a Toyota color. You can still, I think, buy ink black today with a few releases of it, from Toyota Land Cruisers to Toyota Camrys. In fact, my parents' car is actually a ink black Toyota Orion Prasara. So that's where I got that color from, and it looks good on a car. So I mixed and matched it with a two-tone there. Still the same upgrades as it had last time. Still had the diamond checker plate at the top. I didn't bother putting the middle on because I wanted to actually, you know, give this color a good you know, blank spot for people to see. So the grill I didn't change. I was going to change this to an XVS grill, but I ended up just keeping it because it actually does look fairly good. So that's the first reason for this video. Everything mechanically still the same. So in short, yes, I stuffed up the first green and white Grande 2 genuine RC four-wheel drive body. But then when I did that, I ended up buying this from Asia Tees. Costs around about $90, and it's a direct fitment onto Grande 2. What you have to watch out for, though, for those that own Grande 2s and want to buy a body from Asia Tees, is there are two types of this body. There's version 1, which this is, and that's around about $90, as I said. Then there's version 2, which is around about $150. The reason, the difference being, is version 2 has the opening doors, front and rear, and also opening hood or bonnet, wherever, depending where you're from in the world. That will not fit on a Grande 2 without you changing your chassis rails to the longer chassis rails for the D90, specifically made for the Asia Tees and Team Rafico D90. So the difference being is a Team Rafico D90 is slightly longer, uses different axles. It is sort of a carbon copy of an RC four-wheel drive Grande 2. There are very similar aspects to them, like the transmission and the transfer case are pretty much identical carbon copies, apart from the fact that they're painted black, and I think they're made from a different material, but internally they are identical in terms of, you know, where everything goes. The gears on Team Rafico are helical cut, so they are angle cut, meaning that RC four-wheel drive, for example, the pinion will not fit onto a spur gear. You have to buy both as a set. Apparently the RC four-wheel drive pinion and spur gears are better to use. So if you do own a Team Rafico, I'd, you know, buy one from RC four-wheel drive. Both parts are interchangeable. So that's basically how it looks. I kept it still with a low profile roof rack. The windows I did not tint with film. It's actually painted from the inside. I didn't want to do that, but I had to because I wanted a dark tint look. But I couldn't stick film into it because there's recesses in the actual glass. It's in the Lexan, because the glass parts are Lexan, whereas all this is hard body plastic. But it's harder to stick it on any Lexan that's got recesses. For instance, this indentation here, and it's very hard to cut around to shape the tint, because I do have real window film tint that I could have done it with, but it's a little bit too difficult. So I just painted them from the inside, as you would normally paint a Lexan body from the inside anyway. And as you can see, it still looks very shiny. So it still has the dark tint look. I did buy windows for the front. They will go on the next service. So I have to service the internals once every week. So I take it off, make sure everything's still tight, shock towers are tight, everything's tight. So once I do that, I'll put the front windows on, because those windows just arrived as well. But I will not be tinting the front windows, as I will leave that pretty much as a privacy glass look. So it's got the front and then the back. Okay, so hopefully you guys like the way this turned out, and hopefully you give it a thumbs up. Mechanically, it's still identical to what it was before, apart from the springs and shocks. So this is another update that I wanted to showcase to you guys. This now uses the Team Rafico cheaper $15 a pair shocks, and they're brilliant. They're brilliant. If you watched my last video on the LC70, because I changed the LC70 rear ones as well from Proline big bores at the back and cantilever setup to no cantilever setup and just diagonal 70mm shock and spring at the back, and it works brilliantly there. So I tried them on this and also at the back where it's got the scale damper and spring. I'm going to be replacing this to an old man emu setup, which once I do that, it will be 70mm old man emu from RC4WD drive. Just the damper itself, because the spring is separate. But then I will be going back to a Pro line on this, because I'm going to order the 75mm Pro lines for the front as well. But until then, it's going to stay like this for around about a month or two, just until I can save up a bit more money. And the reason why I need to save up more money, guys, is the second reason for this video. And it is... drum roll? No, there's no drums. It is because of that. Okay, so my new Team Rafico D110 Defender. Now this is the one I did a 4-part series on, but unfortunately my phone did not save them, so I won't be using the program that I used to record those videos anymore, because it's let me down a few times now. The only reason I used it is because it allows me to upload them on YouTube quicker, because it compresses the file. But I'm using the normal camera from the iPhone now, and it's going to take roughly around about a day to upload this video. But hey, you know, shit happens. So I'll keep this as brief as I can. This difference between the D90 and the D110 is D110 uses a complete Team Rafico chassis, whereas that is an RC4WD drive chassis. As I said before, there are very similar aspects to both. The axles are different. The RC4WD drive has its own weaknesses. For instance, the hard body that was on it, the Series 1 or version 1 version was just crap. There wasn't much detail. For instance, the Team Rafico, this is a Team Rafico body from Asia Tees, and it includes an indented fuel filler, whereas the RC4WD drive was just a flat fuel filler with a molded fuel filler cap, which just looked crap. It looked fake. Whereas this at least it has that. Also, the vents on the Team Rafico hard body are real holes with real mesh around them. And even this part here is, as you can see, real mesh, and it's got a real 3D vent coming out. There's also a few details in it that are a lot better as well. For instance, it does have real light buckets as well. This, however, the 110 is a completely different one. You can buy this exact version in a D90. Okay, this is the one, as I said to you before, with an opening hood. It's not latched yet, guys, so there's no latch to hold it. But the reason for that is so you can access your battery in the front, and that's the way I'm going to keep it. And you can also service your motor if you need to. I'm using, by the way, the Hobbywing Quick Run Fusion 1800 kV brushless motor setup, identical to the one that's in that. And I'm using a JX 33 kilogram brushless servo in this as well, running on 7.4 volts, because the motor allows me to run on 7.4 volts because it's got an internal BEC. And I use a 2-cell Gens Ace LiPo, which is a 2200 milliamp 35C discharge, and it's just right. Okay. Now, if you're wondering why I took the Pro lines off that, because I wanted to put them on this, because this is going to be heavier. So the Proline Pro scalers are now here, and it's still got the scale set up on here, just like this one here. Difference being is these are 80mm, these are 90mm. So this body's setting up a little bit higher, which is higher than what I want it to be. So I'm going to fine tune this a little bit more. The other difference is this is sitting on 1.55 crate wheels from Boom Racing, and it's on 3.90 outer diameter Pitbull Braven Berserkers. I like these wheels and tires, but they're just a little bit too small for my liking. If you look at it from this stance versus the 1.9s and the 4.19 Class 1 outers. So these are Class 0, 3.90. These are class 1, 4.19. Okay, so that's the difference. These are 1.9 bead locks. These are 1.55s. So that's the difference. Now, I'm not going to tell you everything about this yet because there's a lot of features that are going to be on this vehicle. So I'm not going to tell you what kind of side molds I'm using yet. I'm going to keep it a surprise until the next video. But you know what the shocks are now. You know what the motor is, know what the servo is, know what the springs are. So mechanically, you know what it is. There are a few upgrades on this, guys, before you blast me full of hate mail saying, why did you buy a Team Rafico chassis, and, you know, why this, why that. I did research, I did do my homework on this chassis, and I can tell you I read everything about it. So I know all the weak points about the Team Rafico chassis. I know all the weak points about the Team Rafico axles, the Boom Racing fat axles, and I know all the crap that was involved in buying this. Two reasons why I bought the TRC versus the RC 4-wheel drive D110 is because RC 4-wheel drive has discontinued the production of D110 Defender RTRs. If I was going to buy an RC 4-wheel drive, I would have just bought an RTR, because trying to buy something from RC 4-wheel drive in the States and then ordering so many other things to go along with that, you may not get everything all at once, and I hate that. If I pay a company one lot of sum of money, I expect everything to come pretty much at the same time, right? Whereas the RC 4-wheel drive actually make a point where they've got multiple warehouses, and if you order 50 things from them, they might come from different warehouses, which means you might get the chassis one day, then the upgrades are next. I said, no, can't be stuffed with that BS. I want to order everything, and I want to receive everything in one box, which means I pay for one lot of freight. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is, yes, you can still buy a chassis, a D110 chassis, build chassis from RC 4-wheel drive, but you cannot buy the hard body anymore. And as I said to you guys before, this 110 body will not fit on an RC 4-wheel drive 110 chassis. You need to buy the extended chassis rails to fit this, because this is longer. The chassis on this is 335 millimeters, I'm pretty sure, whereas I think the RC 4-wheel drive is 325 or 324. I'm not 100% sure, but you can double check that as well. But I have been told it's a chassis rails that are different, which means I would have had to strip everything from that the RC 4-wheel drive chassis anyway, and then transfer everything across. So why would I do that when I could just buy this and strengthen and make as bulletproof as I can the mechanicals on it, i.e. the axles. So yes, as I said, I have done my homework on the Team Rafico chassis. I know they've got a couple of weak points. In fact, they have, as far as I can tell, 2 to 3 weak points. The axles they use are very weak. So the bevel gears inside are very weak, apparently, and also the drive shafts are very weak. To be honest with you, I can't even remember the third. The chassis itself, where everything goes and what everything is, how everything feels, is basically almost identical to RC 4-wheel drive. The only difference is that's stamped with an RC 4-wheel drive logo. This isn't. But everything else is pretty much the same. So the axles, you can put Yoda 2s that you have on that onto this one, and it'll fit perfectly. No difference in anything at all. They'll just bolt straight on. So if the axles fail on this, I will be switching to Yoda 2s. But in saying that, this is quieter than the RC 4-wheel drive. It's so much smoother and it's so much quieter, and I will do a demo for you guys so I can prove to you my point. So I'll just turn this on. Now, if you try to listen carefully, you can hear a slight whine and just a slight motor whine on it. Now listen to the RC 4-wheel drive gears. Damn, that's noisier. Okay, so just in terms of smoothness, I would give the smoothness to the Team Rafico axles. In all honesty, I would, because they just are quieter. They're smoother. Even just rolling it manually, it's smoother. So I don't know. Maybe it's because I haven't shimmed these yet. I haven't lubricated them yet. These I actually took apart as I was advised by Asia Tees. I took them apart before I even assembled them. This was a unassembled kit, so you have to assemble everything. The only downside to the Team Rafico kit is the fact that there are no instructions. So be prepared to be either savvy in assembling stuff, or if you're not savvy in assembling stuff, download a Galande 2 D110 instruction manual, because everything that is on the D110 Galande 2 RC4 drive, as I said, is identical to this in everything, in the way everything goes and everything mounts. So you'll be able to get away with using an RC4 drive instruction manual. Okay, so to strengthen the weak points to this, you'll need to buy a set of front, center, and rear boom racing, badass, heavy-duty metal steel drive shafts, which I've done. So these are not the drive shafts that this comes with from stock. These are $100 Australian, which are roughly $60 US or $70 US plus shipping, but they are very, very thick, very, very proven. And people, I think, use this on the BRX1 and don't have an iota of complaint on it. Okay, everybody's very happy with them. So that's one way to strengthen it, which I've done now. The other way of strengthening it is if you open the diffs. So if you open the there's a guy on YouTube that does it, guys. That's why I'm not doing it for you. You can research it. But if you open the axle, you've got one 4mm bearing here, one 4mm bearing there, two bigger bearings that hold the diff together, and then you've got two bearing points or bearing mounts. As you can even see them here, it's actually, there's a provision for two bearings, two 4mm bearings. Out of the factory, they don't put bearings there. You can, but they don't. So I've put bearings there now to strengthen it. So it's got a bearing there, there, and then two there. So all up, you've got 2, 4, 6 bearings on each axle. Okay, so the weak point was those two bearings that weren't there before are there now. The second point is not much lubricant was in there, so I put a lot more grease. And the third point was shim it. These are version 2 axles. There's two versions. The first version that came out, I think, 3 years ago, and the second version that came out earlier 2020 or late 19. And they have now shimmed them from the factory. So my one did not have any play at all. I only had to add one 1mm shim here and another 1mm shim there, just to prevent the side to side, but there was no more play in the diff itself. Same goes for the front. Okay, now as you can see, there's no play side to side. There's no play on my drive shafts connecting to the diffs or the output shaft or whatever it's called. Sorry, I don't know exactly what this is called, but I'll get there one day. But as you can see, there is no play. I could do this to the RC4 drive all day long, and you will see, because I haven't shimmed this yet. I've had this over a month, haven't touched it, and that's got heaps of play. And that's the same for the rear. Okay, so Team Rafi have already shimmed these. There were a lot of shims on this when I received it out of the box. When you receive this, I ordered the one without shocks and wheels because I already have shocks and wheels. So when I got it, it was basically a bare chassis. This uses the same transfer case as the Galande 2 and the same R3 single-speed transmission as the Galande 2, which is, if you can see it there. Well, you can't see the transfer case because it's in there, but it's the same one. So, just so you guys know. Yeah, that's basically it. So, sorry guys, it's 14 minutes longer than what I promised it would be. So, but hopefully that gives you guys an insight as to what I've been up to and what I'm doing. Now, if you haven't guessed already, yes, it is blinged out with not only Pro Lines, pit bulls, boom racing crates, but you do have a licensed worn winch that comes with the CC Hand Defender 110 or D90 bumper that clips straight on to the standard metal bumper that comes with either the Galandes, because this will fit right onto the Galande, as I said, or the Team Rafis. Okay, so not only do I have CC Hand front, but I've got CC Hand rear bumper, metal bumper, and I'll also have CC Hand running boards, which are still in the box of goodies in here. Okay, so there's still a lot to do. Interior's been done now. I've painted everything. Everything is painted and ready to be mounted on. So tomorrow I'll be spending the whole day doing that. So there's more bling to come. So as I said to you guys, I'll be surprising you guys as to what else is going on, because there's still a few other things. If you haven't noticed already, the grill is already very different to your standard grill that you find on the Defender. So if that's not a hint, I don't know what is. But yes, so thank you very much for joining me on this video. It is a long video, but I've been absent for a few weeks, so hopefully that makes up for it. There'll be a few more to come, guys, and I do apologize that I wasn't able to do the unboxing for you guys, and I wasn't able to upload the 4-part series. I do know that a couple of people were waiting for videos of this. I'm sorry, Harry, if you watch this video, you know who you are. But thank you for watching if you did, and hopefully I've given you some insight on what this kit is, and maybe you'll be able to one day grab one and we can trail together. So thanks once again, guys. Please stay safe, and until the next one, peace.